Japan is a country known for its safety. The streets are often quiet at night, crime rates are low compared to many countries, and the police are respected for their discipline. But even in the safest places, there are things no training or manual can prepare you for. This story is one of them. It happened in the countryside of Nagano Prefecture in the late 1990s. Two officers from the local police station were on a regular night patrol. Their names were Officer Hiroshi Takeda, a man in his late 30s with 10 years of experience, and his younger partner, Officer Daichi Mori, only 24 and new to the force. That night, the air was cool. The mountain wind carried the smell of damp earth, and the streets were almost empty. Their patrol car rolled slowly along the narrow road that curved between thick forest. Nagano is beautiful during the day, but at night, the dark woods press against the road like a wall, and the silence feels heavier than in the city. The shift had been uneventful. They had checked a few convenience stores, drove past shuttered shops, and parked at the roadside a few times to watch for drunk drivers. Around 2:30 a.m., Takeda, the older officer, told his partner, "Pull over near the woods. I need to take a piss." Daichi nodded and parked near a patch of dense forest. The headlights of the patrol car pointed at the narrow road ahead, leaving the woods around them almost completely black. Only the sound of crickets broke the silence. Takeda stepped out, stretched his shoulders, and walked a short distance into the trees. He wasn't worried. Japan's countryside at night was quiet, and there weren't many wild animals this close to town except raccoons or the occasional stray dog. But as he walked a little deeper, he stopped. A strange smell floated in the air. At first, it was faint, just a sour, heavy scent that made him wrinkle his nose. He thought maybe there was a dead raccoon or rabbit rotting nearby. But within seconds, the odor grew stronger. It was not only foul but strangely sweet, like decaying flesh. It clung to his throat, making him gag. "Ugh," he muttered, covering his mouth with his hand. He pulled his small flashlight from his belt and swept the beam across the bushes. The light cut through the leaves and branches, revealing wet soil, moss, and twisted roots. He expected to see the pale shape of an animal corpse, but what he saw instead made his heart lurch. Something was moving ahead. The beam caught a hunched figure crouched low to the ground. Its back was wide, covered with dark fur that looked greasy in the light. It was making a wet, tearing sound, like meat being ripped apart. At first, Takeda thought it was a stray dog eating a carcass. But when the figure lifted its head, his stomach dropped. The thing was no ordinary dog. Its face was too long, its jaws too wide. Yellow eyes reflected the light unnaturally, glowing back at him with a cold intelligence. And dangling from its mouth was not the leg of a deer, but a human arm, the pale skin torn and bloody. For a frozen moment, Takeda could not breathe. The creature was crouched over what was left of a human body. The torso was ripped open, organs spilled across the ground. The stench came from the corpse, mixed with the hot breath of the beast chewing on it. Takeda's knees almost gave out. He stumbled backwards, his flashlight trembling in his grip. The beam shook wildly, but it was enough to draw the creature's attention. It stopped eating. Slowly, it turned its head toward him. The sound of its chewing stopped, and the forest fell deathly silent. Takeda's heart slammed in his chest. His instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs were stiff with terror. Then the thing moved. It rose up, not on all fours, but on two legs. Its body unfolded taller, lean but monstrous. Standing, it was larger than any man, with shoulders that nearly brushed the branches above. Its mouth stretched into an impossible snarl, revealing rows of long, jagged teeth still wet with blood. Takeda's scream tore through the night. "Help! Help!" The sound carried back to the patrol car. Inside, Daichi nearly dropped his cup of canned coffee. His partner's scream was unlike anything he had ever heard, raw panic, pure fear. Without hesitation, he grabbed his flashlight and pistol and rushed into the woods, calling out, "Takeda-san, where are you?" Branches whipped against his arms as he ran. The smell hit him too, a rotten metallic stench that grew stronger with every step. His stomach turned, but he pushed forward, guided by his partner's fading cries. Then he heard another sound. A heavy crash, like something huge moving fast through the trees. A snarl followed, low, guttural, and human. When Daichi finally reached the clearing, his flashlight beam froze on a nightmare. Officer Takeda was on the ground, his chest and arms torn by deep slashes. He was breathing, but faint, his eyes half closed. Just beyond him, half hidden in the dark, was a shape too big to be real. Daichi's light caught the creature's face for only a second. Long snout, wet teeth, eyes glowing like lanterns. The beam seemed to anger it. It gave a deafening growl and lowered itself, as if ready to spring. Daichi's hands shook violently, but he raised his pistol. His finger hovered over the trigger. But then, as quickly as it appeared, the beast retreated, darting back into the brush with unnatural speed. Branches snapped, leaves scattered, and then it was gone. The silence after was suffocating. Daichi rushed to his partner's side. "Takeda-san, stay with me." Blood seeped through the older officer's uniform, for deep claw marks stretched across his chest, and his face was pale as paper. But he was alive. With trembling hands, Daichi called for backup through his radio, his voice shaking so hard he could barely speak. "Officer down. Attacked by something." He stopped, words choking in his throat. What could he say? A wolf? A bear? No animal in Japan matched what he had just seen. Within 15 minutes, sirens approached. Other patrol cars, an ambulance, and higher-ranking officers arrived. The woods lit up with flashlights and shouts as a search began. They found the body, or what was left of it, half a man, torn apart beyond recognition. His clothes were shredded, his face mangled. Forensic experts later identified him as a missing local, a man who had disappeared 2 weeks earlier. His family had reported him lost in the mountains. No one had expected this ending. Takeda was taken to the hospital. He survived his wounds, but never returned to the police force. He spoke little about that night, but the few words he said to his partner later chilled Daichi for the rest of his life. It wasn't an animal. The official police report described the attack as an encounter with a wild animal, possibly a bear. But both officers knew the truth. What they saw had stood on 2 legs. It had eyes that understood fear, and it had tasted human flesh. For weeks, patrols were doubled in that area. Villagers whispered about Okuri-inu, the sending-off dog from old folklore, a giant wolf-like creature said to follow travelers at night. Others said it was something even older, something that lived in the mountains before people. But the creature was never caught, and on quiet nights, when the air grows heavy and the woods fall silent, some locals say you can still smell that same sickening stench drifting from the trees. Rot, blood, and something hungry waiting in the dark. Stories like this are not easy to dismiss as simple bear attacks. Japan is not a country where large predators roam freely anymore. The Asian black bear exists in some mountainous regions, yes, but even those animals rarely grow taller than a man, and they almost never attack people without reason. Bears do not eat human corpses in such a manner, and they do not disappear into the forest with unnatural speed after being confronted with lights and shouting police officers. So what did the officers really see that night? In rural Japan, there are old stories about a creature called the Okuri-inu, which means sending off dog. According to legend, this giant dog-like spirit follows travelers walking alone at night, especially in the mountains. Some versions say that if the traveler trips and falls, the Okuri-inu will attack and tear them apart. But if the traveler makes it home safely without showing weakness, the spirit simply vanishes, leaving them unharmed. The creature described by Officer Takeda, massive, wolf-like, walking on 2 legs at times with glowing eyes, matches many old accounts of Okuri-inu from Japanese folklore. The difference is that in the old tales, the Okuri-inu was often described as a supernatural test, not a flesh-eating monster. But folklore has many shapes, and what they saw could have been a darker, hungrier version of the same legend. Both officers reported a rotten stench before seeing the creature. This detail is chilling, because in many supernatural encounters worldwide, foul smells are often linked with death or demonic presence. Hunters in the mountains of Nagano and Niigata have also told stories of strange stenches appearing suddenly in the forest, followed by the sense of being watched. Animals like bears or boars do not produce that kind of overwhelming odor unless their carcass is already rotting. The fact that the officers smelled it while the creature was alive and moving is significant. It suggests that the stench was a part of the creature itself, like an aura of death. The body that was discovered later confirmed that something inhuman was responsible. Japanese forensic investigators are very precise, and in cases of bear attacks, the patterns are well documented. Wide claw marks, crushed bones, and specific tearing of flesh. But in this case, the corpse was described as being eaten. Flesh stripped, torso ripped open, organs missing. That is not typical of a bear attack. Bears kill quickly, often out of defense, and rarely consume humans in such a methodical way. The corpse looked more like the work of something that hunted with intent, something that saw humans as prey. One detail Daichi remembered was the sudden silence before the creature lunged. This matches many reports of encounters with large predators or supernatural beings. Nature itself seems to quiet down, as if recognizing a threat. Crickets stop, birds do not call, and the forest holds its breath. In Japanese folklore, this silence before danger is often mentioned in connection with yokai, supernatural creatures that disrupt the natural balance around them. The Nagano police never officially recorded the incident as a monster attack. Instead, the records filed it as a possible bear encounter, with fatal human remains found in the forest. But this is common in cases where the truth does not fit scientific explanation. Japanese authorities are extremely careful about avoiding public panic, especially in rural communities where superstition is still strong. Labeling the event as a bear attack was the safest way to close the file. But the surviving officer, Daichi Mori, knew the truth. In interviews years later, he carefully avoided saying dog or monster, but he admitted, "It wasn't an animal I know. It wasn't like anything in the natural world." What makes the story more convincing is that there are other reports from Nagano and nearby prefectures of giant dog-like creatures. Hikers, truck drivers, and even farmers have occasionally spoken of glowing eyes in the woods, footsteps that follow them along mountain paths, or the feeling of being hunted. Some locals believe these are ancient spirits tied to the mountains, guardians that sometimes protect, but sometimes punish. Others think they are simply old folk tales taking new shape in modern times. Still, the description matches across many stories: tall, canine, foul-smelling, intelligent eyes. What truly proves the reality of the encounter is not the folklore, not the stench, not even the corpse. It is the condition of the surviving officers. Officer Takeda never returned to duty. His wounds healed physically, but mentally he was broken. He reportedly moved away from Nagano within a year, refusing to speak about what happened. His silence speaks volumes. Officer Daichi remained with the police, but developed insomnia and an extreme fear of forests at night. He was known to request patrols away from wooded areas, something unusual for a young and ambitious officer. These men had nothing to gain from making up such a story. Their reputations, their careers, even their mental health suffered. That, more than anything, suggests that what they encountered that night was very real. The story of the Nagano police officers remains one of Japan's most chilling modern encounters with something beyond human understanding. Whether it was an Okuri-inu from folklore, an unknown species of predator, or something supernatural, the events of that night left behind real scars, a real corpse, and real fear. Even today, locals warn travelers not to walk alone near the forests of Nagano late at night. They say if you smell something rotten when no animals are near, it may already be too late. Because somewhere in the darkness, the creature that attacked those officers might still be waiting.